Hey everyone, we're back with another comic breakdown, and this is for Darkhawk number 1. And as you can see on the screen, that's our roadmap for the video. I'll be covering the drop details, the comic evaluation, and then my conclusion with final thoughts. And these are the drop details. As you can see, they're the same as most other drops that we've seen for comics. The rare and ultra rare once again have the exclusive covers to VeVe, which is interesting once again because we'll see long term how comic collectors in the physical comics will react to these variants. Most of the time they look pretty cool, and I think in this case for this comic it looks pretty cool. So if you like them, I'll say collect them, because long term they may pay off really well if comic collectors like these exclusive covers. So one to look out for sure. And before we move to the next part, this is the spreadsheet that I made, linked in the description, with the resources that I've used. As you can see, it goes from YouTube channels to websites and so on. Also with their social media like Twitter accounts linked, and also tabs for the comics, which is the basic information, and a record of all the Marvel 90s that they released so far. I do plan adding on to that later with maybe the Batman Black and White series and other series as VeVe goes on. So check out the link in the description. I'm sure especially the resources tab will help you a lot, because they help me a lot when it comes to VeVe and research and keeping track of prices and new news for sure. I'm sure most viewers won't really recognize characters in this comic because it's not a popular one when it comes to, movies, for example, because there hasn't been a Darkhawk movie yet. But these are the characters that appear here. We have Darkhawk as the hero. We have antagonists, Hobgoblin, which I think has appeared in other comic runs. And we have Philippe Bazin, who's a mafia leader, I think. And all the other powers there are family members of the Darkhawk superhero, with Jason and Jonathan being his brothers, and Grace being his mother, and Michael the father. So some basic background information. Firstly is the first appearance, of course, of this character in the comics, and his origin story is explored in this issue. So if you really want to check it out, you can get it on the drop and or in the market and read the story. But it's basically how he finds an amulet which transposes him into this Darkhawk armor, and he uses to fight crime. And the last point isn't in the comic, I think, for issue number 1, but he does team up with Spider-Man on a number of occasions. So he does link in with, obviously, Spider-Man being one of the biggest characters in the MCU. The real comic isn't that collectible when it comes to value. 9.6 rating for the CGC rating goes for $100, which is very, very low compared to most of the other comics that dropped on VeVe. This might be the lowest, the cheapest one. Once again, it is his first appearance, and it's published in 1991. And I checked out the Twitter post from VeVe for the initial announcement for this drop, and there were a lot of fans in the comments going on about how they have the whole comic section, the comic series, or they grew up on this, and they say that it's a great comic. So I'm sure many fans would know it, especially new users come in their 30s, their 40s, or 50s, because this was published in 1991. So maybe it's a long-term grower. I would say it is more than obviously the bigger comics. Like, for example, yesterday we had the Darkhawk first appearance that was on the marketplace real quick at like $60. So I'm sure this will be a relatively cheap one, which grows over time as the commons do on the market. And MCP did this something interesting that I thought of. I did see a tweet that kind of sparked this thought, and it's when the Master Collectors program gets announced and released onto the app, and people can burn their NFTs for MCP points. I'm sure this, alongside comics like maybe Powers of X and Marvel's One Ultimates, those like cheaper comics, would be the victim to most burns, because obviously they're cheap and they'll get you the points that many of the users would want. So over time, as the supply probably decreases, this value will go up for sure. Screen right now are links to the sources that I used to make this video, to do research, to read up on the comic and the character in general. So I would say check out the Marvel database for sure. The VeVe Twitter account is a must follow, I would say, to keep up with the official news, and the Medium article gives you the detail on the drop. So I would say check those out for sure. The rest are good for the photos that I use, and also Go Collect generally gives a really good value guide on all the comics that are on VeVe. So check them out, because I think long-term value for the physical comic is really important when it comes to choosing which ones you want to invest in and buy. So my final thoughts: I think you should hold or sell depending on what your plan is, or your game plan, your goal. So it's not an important comic, so it's not going to be one that's volatile on the market, that's going to make you a lot of money, because I don't think it's that popular compared to the Avengers ones, the Fantastic Four ones, Spider-Man, all that. Once again, linking to the MCP thing, it'll be a slow crawler, I would say. But I collect comics on VeVe. That's what I'll collect for myself, not to sell. So I'll be getting at least one of this, probably a second common if I can, just for the long-term value. Hopefully it rises a little bit. Yeah, I'll probably sell the other rarities of this comic depending on the price in the market, because if there's a price like the other rares, ultra rares, super rares, I might just cash in on them. But if they're relatively low, I might just keep them. For example, the rare, because I think rare comics, I'm not mistaken, gives you 2 points every day for the Master Collectors program. So I think it's the most cost-effective way of getting points. So if I get the rare, I'll keep that. But other rarities, I think I might just flip at the end of the day. So yeah, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed it and learned something about the new drop. If you enjoyed it, like and subscribe and comment if you have any suggestions for me to improve. That's my Twitter on screen, VeVe Camino. And yeah, good luck with the drop.